Hi everyone, welcome. It will be a short one today because I really finally started on some admin and trying to bring some order into my life. I did not do as much as I wanted to, but I am getting there. I had a quiet giggle today. I wonder how happy Camilla is about Angela Rayner returning as Housing Secretary in Prime Minister Andy Burnham's cabinet. She had just started smiling again, and lo and behold, Charles's Eliza Doolittle is back. Talk about the cat with 9 lives. I wonder when will they be going on their next excursion to inspect a housing development. Apparently it is a complete surprise and shocker. Well, not for me. You know, I was in the bath doing what I do every morning, flipping through Instagram short stories, and there was a video by a bloke calling his page Exposing Your Plate, walking through Manchester and coming across Andy Burnham coming out of what looks like a fancy hotel, or it could be a government building, I don't know. The bloke says something like, do you think he's going to do anything different from all the others? They all take orders from the global elite. Interesting question, though, is who are the global elite in Britain in particular? Well, just doing a very superficial dig, it is clear that the elite come in different categories in Britain. There is the wealth elite, who hold economic power, like Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Michael Platt. There is the political and policy elite, like certain ministers of parliament and judges, etc. Then there's also the corporate and cultural elite, among which you will find editors of national newspapers and leaders of major academic institutions. And finally, we have the landed aristocracy, who own vast estates and huge property portfolios, like the Duke of Westminster. So all categories considered, who do you think is right at the top of the food chain in Britain? Well, guys, he may not be the biggest private landowner in Britain. That is, if we strictly consider private holdings like Balmoral and Sandringham. But even so, and even in this category, the king is not very far from the top. Balmoral and Sandringham together comprise plus minus 74,000 acres. However, most people in British law also considers the Duchy of Lancaster as a privately held property portfolio. So that is another 44,000 acres to his belt. Yet, although the Duke of Buccleuch is said to be the largest private property owner in the United Kingdom, most will tell you that that which he yields power over becomes almost a drop in the ocean compared to that which Charles, as king, yield power over. You see, the Crown Estate is the top UK landholder, with over 678,000 acres. Yes, all of this is held in right of the Crown, and for instance, King Charles cannot sell it. Okay, it does not belong to him per se, but he currently pockets just over £1 million of the income of the Crown Estate. And of course, if you go even further and include Commonwealth realms, we talk about millions and millions of acres. King Charles, according to Business Tech, is also considered the largest individual employer in Britain, followed by Sir James Dyson and Denise Coates. It is often said that the monarch yields no political power, but, my dears, that is not true. Introducing a new bill in the United Kingdom involves passing through a number of stages. For instance, the first reading, the second reading, committee stage, report stage, third reading, and then finally royal assent, which is the final approval by the monarch after both houses agreed, and then obviously after royal assent the bill becomes an act of parliament. I'm also aware that royal assent is more tradition than a display of power, and there may have been more occasions at which royal assent was withheld, but the only two I know of was Queen Anne in the 1700s and King William in the 1600s. Since the 18th century, the United Kingdom's constitution has slowly evolved to what it is today, and today it would trigger an immediate constitutional crisis should Charles refuse royal assent on a bill. So yes, on the surface it looks and sounds like the king has very little to almost no political power. But again, that is not true. So let me explain. Most people, even traditionalists in Britain, think that the king's consent, or then the queen's consent, if the monarch is female, is the same thing as royal assent. But it is not. Many people in modern Britain and the Commonwealth realm do not even know that there is a procedure which allows the monarch to preview and influence bills before they are even debated. So again, like I've done once or twice before, just to prevent comments like, this is not true, what do you know? The research and information I'm using for this particular argument comes mainly from the Scottish Parliament's website. So you can go check it out for yourself. In Scotland, though, it is called Crown Consent. Okay, so what is it? It is a parliamentary procedure where the king agrees, and I quote, the Crown's own legal rights and private interests are to be placed at the disposal of Parliament so a bill can be debated. Now, I had a bit of a giggle reading that, because that, my dears, is what you get when you breed gaslighting and bullshittery. Okay? So let's get to the nitty-gritty. The government must seek the king's consent when it impacts him or the royal family in any of the following ways. Number one, the royal prerogative, such as the power to declare war, issue passports or appoint ministers. Number two, hereditary revenues, in other words, when it may affect the king's income. Now, we are mostly talking about the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall. Okay, and then number three, this is the important one, the one which is so wide that it's very difficult to curtail it, okay? So, any private royal interests like private property, finances, or legal immunities. So no matter how hard Buckingham Palace tries to convince the public that the King's consent is purely a formal process, it is not. It gives the royal household a sneak peek at upcoming laws before the public even sees it. Even the government itself abuses this King's consent. For instance, let's say a backbencher introduces a private member's bill which the government of the day dislikes. Then ministers will simply ask the King to withhold consent. And without the King's consent, the bill cannot be voted on, and the bill is then killed quietly behind closed doors without even needing to defeat it in an open parliamentary vote. Now, Buckingham Palace would want you to believe that this happens very rarely, but it happens more often than you think. We just don't know about it. Ones we do know about because they were rather big and important are, for example, the military action against Iraq bill in 1999, the Palace of Westminster Bull in 1988, and the Reform of the House of Lords Bull 1990. These were all, let's say, squashed before they were even debated. Okay, so there you have it. Royal assent and the King's consent are two very different things, and the lovely loophole very few people actually even know about. So we have just proven that very obviously Charles is at the top of the food chain when it comes to being landed aristocracy. He's also close to the top of the wealth elite in Britain, even in his private capacity. He is for sure top of the ladder when it comes to politics and policy and then culture. Well, no one else rides in carriages and wears crowns and is supposedly supreme governor of the Church of England, are they? So back to exposing your plates video. Having all this information, who do you think is the top dog among the global elite pulling strings in Britain? Keir Starmer? Andy Burnham? No. It is Charles Windsor. And if you don't like the New Britain, then unfortunately that is where you will have to start. Okay, guys and girls, that's it from me for now. I'll see you again a little later or early tomorrow. So until then, please take good care of yourselves. Stay safe. Bye.